Welcome back to another episode of Black Ice Reality Check. We have a special guest, but before I announce that special guest, again, I'm promoting my new product that just launched, HV Alpha, Nootropics. Allows you to think fast on your feet. It's good with memory. It helps with anxiety. It helps with ADHD. Make sure you order it now. Go to the link in the description box and order HV Alpha by Black Ice Supplements. I'm excited about this new guest. He's from California. He's on a mission. His name is Harrison Tinsley, and he's got a great message today, and I think you're going to really want to pay attention to this. And if you're a father out here or a mother or a family with children, this is going to hit right to the heart. Harrison, thank you for coming on the podcast. I want you to tell the audience kind of what led you up to coming to this podcast and your journey and what you're fighting for children.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Basically, it all started a few years back when I was dating a girl in the Bay Area. We had met at karaoke. We sang each other some songs. It was, fell in love. Shortly after dating, just a few months in, she got pregnant pretty quickly. And we were both happy about that, thank God. So we decided we were going to have it. And essentially, into her pregnancy, about halfway, she was constantly threatening me, like, oh, you're not going to see your son if this or that. And essentially, we disagreed politically. And
so you lean more conservative and she's more liberal? Is that
correct?
Okay.
That's right, yeah.
If you don't mind me, how did you guys get together if you both were so different on the political side? Because usually, in other states, but in San Francisco, I mean, they're hardcore, like, I'm not going to bend the knee to anything. How did that work out?
Right. Well, like I said before, karaoke, so we shared music and singing as things we both really loved, and I think that was part of it. We were attracted to each other generally. And we actually, even though how this story is going to sound crazy, but she has a lot of wonderful qualities about her too, of course, just as everyone does,
Right.
She suffers with some serious mental health problems, unfortunately, but, she has great qualities too.
Okay, so continue on your story about threatening you with the baby. What happened there?
So she's pregnant, and I'm constantly getting threats. Essentially, if I'm not exactly who she wants me to be, particularly in a political sense, that I'm not going to see my son. I was hearing it like every day, and then she said, oh, you have to give us like couples therapy or, you're never going to see your son again. So I did, and she bailed on going to it. Then she sent me a cease and desist letter from her attorney. And
wait, you got a cease and desist?
Yeah.
To not see your child or not to talk to her?
To not talk to her because the child's not born yet.
Okay.
Yeah, she's like 4 or 5 months pregnant.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I respect that, and I actually don't find out he's born until a week afterwards from one of her friends on social media. And, that was heartbreaking, but,
So you're trying to be a good father. You're
Absolutely.
trying to be involved in the baby's life. Okay. Okay, so go on and tell.
Never a doubt in my mind to run away, to give up, never even crossed my mind.
Right.
It's not who I am.
And so what do you do for a living now, for work? You're a truck driver? You drive across the country? Or
No, that was just something I was doing to help my family with.
Okay.
I'm a musician, and I do construction.
Okay, and you do that out of California primarily? Or
Yeah.
Okay. And so you came out here just to be on the podcast?
Yeah, that's why I'm stopping in Vegas.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, I appreciate that. So why don't you tell the audience, I saw some stuff. I saw you on the internet before I saw you on Pearly Things. I saw you on the news, some news channels, if I'm not mistaken, and I watched it, and then it was interesting, and then you were on Pearl, and somehow, I don't remember how we got connected, but we did. But tell people exactly why you're starting a movement, A, and then B, I know you have a site where people can donate for your cause, correct? But talk about what's really going on and why you're here.
Well, I'm here because children are the most innocent, wonderful thing in the whole wide world. I love being a dad literally more than anything, more than I love music, more than I love sports. It's the best, most meaningful thing you can do. And I think it's really sad how nowadays so many kids have fatherless homes, and we've seen, the stats of what things that causes, like homelessness, prison, drug addiction, suicide, all these really sad statistics, right?
Yeah.
And beyond that, now we're seeing places like California put anti-parent bills through legislation to try to be able to take people's kids away from them if they don't agree with gender ideology. And this whole gender ideology thing on kids is wrong. Kids can't even comprehend that. And quite frankly, I think it's child abuse, and I want to stop it at all costs.
So what did she threaten you with? Not seeing your child, and what else did she threaten you with?
It was mainly just that, like, you're not going to see him if this or that.
So she didn't say she's going to try to make him a girl or anything like that?
No, that wasn't something before.
Okay, so right now, how old's your son?
3.5.
3.5 years old, and you still haven't seen your son, or you're...
No, so what happens is, let me finish the story. Basically, I find out he's born. 2 months later, I filed in court in San Francisco, and then it took 13 months for me to meet him, which was a very long time, I felt at least. It did at least, you know, that pain and suffering builds character to make me a better man, to be a better dad for my son, if you want to get the positive from it.
Right.
But obviously it was heartbreaking, you know, hard to sleep at night. But essentially after that, I finally got to meet him and have visits with him, and I moved to the Bay Area where I was lucky enough to be awarded half custody of him. That was when he was around 2 years old, and that's right when she started doing the non-binary thing.
Okay, so she's trying to... What is she doing? Tell people what she's trying to do now.
Essentially, she calls in a they, them, and tries to treat him... I mean, I'm not her, but it seems like maybe like is a gender neutral kind of thing. Even though he's fully aware he's a boy, he'll tell you he's a boy if you ask him. If you give him something too girly, he'll even scream and yell at you. It's making him hyper aware of it, and it's really sad.
How old is he right now again? 3.5?
3.5, that's right.
And so she's using the pronouns. Now,
Yeah.
has she told you not to use the pronouns, or did she say anything to you now that you have 50% custody?
She mainly doesn't
Interact?
tell me what to do. We only interact on a court application for the most part, except during exchange where, you know, I'm calling him a boy and she's calling him a they. He is normally dressed as a boy, although I'm sure you've seen there's been some pictures where he was dressed in dresses. There's a story that was really sad. You and me were talking about before the podcast of parents like forcing things on their kids, and she took him to Disneyland one time. And I knew she took him to Disneyland. She told me that. And later on, a couple months later, he told me at dinner, he was like, Dad, when I was at Disneyland, I couldn't go on the rides unless I wore my princess shoes. And he's like, I didn't want to wear princess shoes. I wanted to wear Mickey Mouse boy shoes. And I thought that was just heartbreaking, you know? And, you know, it just things like that where it's really trying to be forced upon him, even though he's fully aware he's
So
a
what are
boy.
you trying to do in legislation now in California? Like, you can't really... I mean, you can't force a parent to. I mean, I understand, like, you know, trying to do gender surgery, right? I get that, but like, she's going to continue to identify your son as non-binary, correct? And you can't really fight that, but to a point. But what are you fighting? Are you trying to get full custody, or what are you trying to do?
Yeah, so after I was awarded half custody, which is when she started treating him as non-binary, essentially some time went on with half custody, and there was arrest involving my son and her for child endangerment, and she was placed on 5150. There was the gender stuff.
What's 5150?
Involuntary psychiatric commitment.
So they arrest her and put her in a psychiatric treatment center.
While my son was with her, correct.
So then you went and got your son.
I actually didn't, believe it or not.
Why?
I can't speak for them. I thought it would have been me to pick him up, but essentially her parents picked him up instead, and I picked him up on my normal pickup.
Now, do you have a good relationship with her parents? A decent?
Decent.
Like it's amicable, like you guys don't fight, but...
Yeah, for the most part.
So because she went to this psychiatric treatment, now has the state seen this, and have they adjusted the visitation, like 60-40 or 70-30?
So what happens is, she didn't get convicted, first of all. There was a CPS investigation. They decided not to press charges. But in spite of that, I honestly, by the grace of God, like, they almost kept all this from me, right? Because the cops didn't call me that night to pick him up or anything. But I got very lucky, and I found out, and I subpoenaed all of the body cam footage and everything that had happened, 911 call, all of it. So then I finally get it all, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And I present it all to court along with the gender stuff and a lot of defamation of me on social media and some other things. And we end up getting granted a 5-day trial, which is a long time for family court. Most people just get a little hearing and that's
Sure.
it. Yeah, and so we have this 5-day trial with witnesses and evidence, and I felt really, really confident about it. I felt that we presented a good case. The evidence was all on our side. And after that, court ruled to keep custody the same. They ruled that they wouldn't make a ruling on gender at all. And
What?
so I'm appealing that decision now.
So nothing changed. Even after they saw the body cam footage of her, I'm assuming she was acting out physically or verbally. I mean, she went to jail.
Right.
For something. Was she being violent? Not towards your child, but was she?
She was in a confrontation with her roommate.
Okay.
And it was at least a aggressive verbal confrontation. You know, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Wow. So do you think, let me ask you this. If you think the jury, was there a jury there?
No. So in family court, it's just a judge. There's no jury.
So the judge is like out of their mind completely.
I felt that they made the wrong decision, but, you know, they do see a lot. They've probably seen much worse.
Right.
To be fair, however, I did feel that we had enough evidence to warrant a change in custody for sure.
Okay, so now you're going to legislation, and what is your main focus in the legal system? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
I'm trying to accomplish protection for children and for parents as well, because there's all these new bills coming out of California to try to take custody away from parents if they don't go along with gender ideology.
And do you think that it's more, even prior to that, there's more, the women get custody generally 80% of the time more than the men?
Correct.
So do you believe that if the roles were reversed and you're in San Francisco, the Bay, and you wanted to be more left-leaning, woke, have the ideologies, and you were fighting for custody and she was more on the conservative side, do you think you would have had a better shot, hypothetically, in getting custody of your child?
It's a good question. I think it's at least a possibility. I would also say it's as you just said, more likely for girls to get custody regardless of politics.
Right. So, and I don't know what you can talk about on camera, and I'm not trying to have you perjure yourself, because I definitely don't want this to affect any future decision makings by courts, the legal system, if she happens to see it.
Right.
Do you feel that people, I'm not saying her, and I'm saying people, that have this whole fixation of gender neutral, gender ideologies, in other words, like gender surgeries for children, do you believe that they have mental disorders?
There's a study out of PubMed that shows 53% of moms of boys with gender dysphoria have borderline personality disorder, which is a very serious personality disorder. Yeah,
I know that there's a stat, and I know I'm sure people are going to blow up in the comments, that 80% of the single households that are moms, like 80% of the children that are raised in a single family home have challenges later on in life, either go to prison, murder, suicides are high, mental disorders, drug addiction, and a very small percentage. So 80%, right, out of 100. But here's the other stat. So 80% of the children out of single households have problems. Now, 80% of the single households are moms.
Right.
And I'm still a firm believer, and I'm sure I'm going to get pushback on this, but I don't care. This is Black Ice Reality Check. Truth will set you free, right? That's my mindset.
Love it.
That I believe that, and this is just my belief system. Only a man can raise a boy to be a good man. A mom can teach a boy manners. A mom can do certain things, but she can never teach him how to be a good man. Because 9 times out of 10 in a single household, and I ask the single mothers this, and vice versa for a man, like I can only instill good values into my daughter, but a woman can only inspire her in certain ways that I can't. So a womanly figure in the house can lead my daughter, right? But I can't teach her how to be a good woman. I can teach her the values that men look for in a good woman. I'm a man, right? That's why the nuclear family, I believe, is so critical to the success of our children. But I get a lot of single moms on here with boys, and then they'll say, well, would you want your son marrying a woman like you? And they're like, yeah. But their track record is horrible. And so your son's going to end up, like I did, dating girls that end up resembling and having the same behavioral patterns as your mother, to seek something that you didn't get from your mom, right? And all I can tell you as a father is just always say good messages to the children And if you have nothing good to say about their mom, you don't say anything, but you always support them. And if they say something about their mom, you just try to be positive to a point, right? Because when they get older, they're going to see the person of value as a parent and understand that my dad is a good man, no matter what the mother said to him. Because I'm sure, and I can tell, you're a bright young man. You got great qualities. We've talked. I think that if you continue to be the man that you're supposed to be for your son, he's going to realize no matter what she says, you're a good person. He'll eventually get it and go, wait a minute. My dad's never said anything bad about you, but you keep, I'm not saying she's doing this, but I can only imagine.
Right.
What she's saying. You said you've seen video, defamation of character. So on social media, that digital footprint doesn't go away.
Correct.
And you've got that. So she said bad things. When the children see that, and then they come to when your son comes to see you as a father for your weekend warrior visit or your 50-50 now, he's realizing as he gets older, he might even ask you, Daddy, how come you never say anything bad about mom like she says about you? And that's a content of a character of a person. And not only that, as a man, that's a good content, good character. So I would always encourage people that get in a divorce, I don't care what your ex did. Don't speak bad about your ex in front of your children, because when your children get older, they're going to respect you more, that you were the better person and never said anything bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, so these legislation bills that you're going after, can you talk about some of the laws that they're coming out with that really don't make sense to the average Joe, around children? Can you speak into that or?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I appreciate what you said. I think you're totally correct. And I do not say anything bad about her to him, or even, we talked about it earlier. And what did I say? I said she has lots of wonderful qualities. Mm-hmm. I would never do something like that. I want my son to have the best life possible. But regarding the California bills, there's AB 957, and essentially it takes, for family court, a judge has to take into consideration that the affirming parent of a kid's gender identity, it's in the kid's best interest of health, safety, and welfare to at least consider granting custody to that parent. And we've been fighting on them to kill that bill or amend that bill. And when they voted on it in committee, quite a few people showed up and called in. And essentially they have to listen to everyone, and they'll state their name. I'm Harrison Tinsley and I oppose this bill. And they have to listen to everyone.
Wait, say that again. So the parent that affirms a gender identity.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, if you say he's a boy and she says, what?
It's broad.
Because if you say your son's a boy and she says your son is they, them, who's affirming the gender?
Correct. Well, so in this, it's interesting. I talked to the author of the bill and some of the Democrat senators, and they're all under the impression that this bill will actually help me because my son says that he's a boy, and I'm the one saying he's a boy and she's not. But will it work both ways? I don't know. I'll try.
Okay, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
For sure.
Children are easily influenced.
Correct.
So if your ex-girlfriend ends up influencing your child to believe that he is a they, them, and then he starts saying that, and then it goes to court and they bring a child up, you're done.
Correct. Yeah. Also, it's weird because court doesn't even take testimony from a child that old, so I'm not even sure how they're going to consider any of this. But it's very interesting. And most, I live in the Bay Area, and even all the Democrats I know, everyone's against this stuff. No one's for this.
So how did it go?
This is crazy.
So is it a proposal bill, or did it pass?
It passed committee. So it has to pass a few different things, and then Newsom has to sign it. But it's ready to be up for a floor vote.
And this is for the state and not the city.
No, this is for California.
What is wrong with people there? I'm sorry. I just think there's a lot of people with some serious mental disorders in the Bay and LA that believe that a child can decide their gender identity. You've got to literally be, I don't know, if this would have happened in the 20s or 30s, they'd lock you up in a psychiatric ward. You have a mental disorder, 100%. And listen, this isn't about being gay, straight, or other transgender, whatever. You can do whatever you want. I don't judge anybody. Look, if you want to be transgender, great. You want to be gay, great. You want to be straight, great. But don't come into the school system with children or in my house and try to teach about sexuality to my kids. That's not your decision. That's my decision on my time. If my son wants to ask me questions about sex, he can ask me. But I'm not going to have some teacher that has a different ideology or belief system that may not construct with mine talk to my kids about their vision and thought process around sexuality that may or may not be right. And I don't think it's subjective. I think it's objective. I believe it's objective because there's stats and data. You know, and I'm going down this rabbit hole. Okay, sex and gender are related, in my opinion. And well, that's a fact. Science has proven it.
I concur.
And I'm not going to have somebody tell me, look, and I don't really care. If you want to identify as a woman, I don't care. That's fine. Don't bring it into my house with my children.
Leave the kids alone.
Leave the kids alone. That's all we're saying. We're not saying, hey, look, I'm a straight heterosexual man. I'm not going to go into school, elementary school, with a book and start reading to little kids about sexual intercourse.
Demented. Evil.
I would go to jail.
Correct.
If I was gay, I wouldn't go to jail. You see the difference?
I do. They're getting special treatment.
And so my point is that I think there's some serious disconnect. There's some serious mental disorders. And again, I'm not better than a gay man or a gay woman. I'm not better than a transgender. They have their belief, fine. I'm not telling them they can or cannot vote. I'm not telling them that they can or cannot go to a restaurant where I'm eating. But what you're not going to do is go into a school and tell my kids what to do. Because now we have problems. And if you were talking about straight sex, we have problems. Because we don't know each child's viewpoint and where they're at in life and what conversations they've had with their parents. Some kids might be 10, 12, 15, 16, 18, but we don't know what the timeline is for the family to determine, hey, I want to sit down with you and have that talk. And your kid's like, I already know all this stuff. Or they're like, what? Why are you telling me this? Right? You know what I mean?
Totally, man. And they're doing it younger and younger. I mean, they're starting to transition kids at like 3 years old and stuff. It's getting wild.
They didn't even bring school books into kindergarten.
Yeah.
But I was reading this article where this woman went in and she asked what the curriculum was for the elementary school kids in her kid's school. And they came after her.
They sue her, right?
They sued her.
I saw this, yeah.
I can't remember what school system it was. It was just on recently.
I saw it, yeah.
And she's getting sued for asking about the curriculum. And this whole system that's broke. Now, the other issue I have, again, you know, this is where I'm lost. And we're talking about children, but we're talking about the whole ideology of, you know, gender dysphoria, right? Is if you are fighting for this equality or you're fighting for equal rights, what rights don't you have that we have? You can get married if you're gay in certain states. Am I right? You can go
it's the whole country now.
Oh, it's the whole country. Yeah. Okay, I stand correct. But you have every right. The only right that they don't have in certain states is you cannot, as a transgender woman, go in a woman's bathroom.
Which you shouldn't be able to.
You shouldn't be able to. But you don't have you don't have men worried about transgender men coming in the men's bathroom.
Yeah.
If you're a woman and you dressed as a man, I'm going to tell you why, and you want to go in the men's bathroom, it don't bother me. You're an adult. But I don't want a adult male going into a women's bathroom and my 16-year-old daughter's in there.
It's the most anti-woman thing ever. They're taking over women's sports. They're taking their scholarships. They're beating their records. It's despicable. It's anti-woman.
It is.
It's horrible.
And it's funny you said that because the feminists that are supporting this movement are actually going against the same focus and goal that they're trying to do to not have women oppressed, but they're oppressing them by supporting transgender women in women's sports. It's backwards. This is a whole mental thought process, right? But going back to this, if you're a man in the women's bathroom, there's all kinds of things that can happen. Now in California, and you can correct me if you haven't heard this, but I've been reading about it. If you get convicted as a felon in the state of California, I was just talking about this on the last podcast, and you identify as a woman, they will put you in the women's prison.
That's correct. It's disgusting, and they're having rapes and pregnancies in women's prisons, and it's despicable that we'd even consider it.
And so, why are the feminists doing this? Because here's a challenge. Let's go down the voting laws and down the voting path. Because I was a big politic guy. I'm still into it. I still care, but my old podcast was more about politics, right? Red Pill Podcast. Hispanics and blacks have left the left. They're gone. They're leaving in droves. You have the feminists and the alphabet kids, right? I don't know the acronyms. Now, it's funny because some people that see this may take it as an insult. I actually don't know all the alphabets. They've added some, and they've added 2 pluses on the end. What do they mean? Who knows? But what's happening now is they're fighting for the left, the votes. They're not getting the votes. They're not getting the numbers at the polls. They're not getting any support, and so they're fabricating these false narratives to try to get people to come to their side. And when the voting comes out, they're going to fabricate the votes, just like we just saw recently. It was Pennsylvania. It just came up on the news today that I can't remember what it was. I'm going to try to pull it up. But I believe in Pennsylvania that they just found out that 500 or 800,000 votes were faulty or were fake.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested to hear about that.
I got to find this when I get a chance. But yeah, they just found it. I'm gonna look for it now. It's gonna bother me. But
and regarding the LGBT whatever, the alphabet mafia people, there's so many people that are just, normal gay people that don't want to be involved with trans people at all. They share nothing in common. There's groups like Gays Against Groomers, LGB Without the T, Walk Away campaign, and they're not trying to be involved with any of this weird trans stuff, particularly when it involves children.
Yeah, that's what I heard, that they're trying to get rid of the Q and the T. They're trying to separate themselves because they don't agree with it. The gay community just doesn't want they don't want to be involved because they support it too, right? They don't want that. They don't want that narrative passed through to the children. So what kind of other bills do they have? That was one bill you talked about.
There's the one regarding, affirming gender and identity. There's one regarding being able to basically emancipate kids at 12 years old, and it's going to make it that they can basically leave their parents' home and go to foster homes, and they'll be able, since they'll be emancipated, to make medical decisions and do whatever they want.
At 12?
At 12 years old in California.
But their foster parents won't have any control over their decision. I'm
not exactly sure. Maybe the foster parents do, but I know that they would be getting emancipated. So
at 12 years old.
At 12 years old, and there's more too. It's
man.
Crazy.
I remember at 12, you're so lost as a child.
Totally.
You're trying to figure it out. You don't know who you want to be. You don't know if you want to be a rock star or a rapper.
Yep.
A doctor, a lawyer, and you're going to let this 12-year-old kid make a decision? That just sounds so insane to me.
It's beyond insane.
It's baffling that people will allow this.
That's why we need to speak up and we need to stop allowing it. We're not letting you trans kids anymore. We're not letting you emancipate kids at 12 years old. You're not coming for our kids.
Who's
it's
coming
done.
up with these bills,
we're gonna be looked back on in history in 100 years. We're not gonna be cowards. We're gonna be like, these guys stood up for this. They stood to protect the kids. I'm done with it. We can't put up with it.
But there's so many. The younger generation is so skewed now. Like the percentage of people that identify as something else in the Gen Z is higher than any other generation. I mean, it's going to go. I hate to say it. I think it's going to go so far up before it falls. It's not working. Population's going to decline.
Apparently, we're not having enough to repopulate in the United States. But I think that right now we're already getting a shifting point to push back against all this. I mean, Turning Point USA?
Yeah.
They work with, high schools and colleges, and I think they're doing a really good job.
Charlie Kirk.
And they were doing a great job at bringing young kids into reality.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's just, and so that's what, is there any other bills that you know about that are going out right now?
Yeah, there's one where it's like, if you don't agree with like gender ideology or leftist ideology in some sense, you can't be a foster parent anymore, which means they're taking out the majority of them and all the ones who don't agree with this stuff. Because, the majority of foster parents are religious, about 60% of them.
Let's go down this road.
Yeah.
On the left, okay? Everything that they're doing is anti-pro-life.
Anti-human, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So abortion.
Yep.
Gender dysphoria surgery or gender, right?
Or hormones.
Hormones, okay, which again,
you can't even take steroids as a boy. That if you're in sports or anything, like you can't just get steroids, but they're happy to give them to teenage girls after one session.
Testosterone.
After one session, it's insane.
What else? Supporting gay marriage. Can't have children biologically.
Right.
You got to go outside your biological nature to go adopt kids. They're teaching all this stuff in school. The way they vote, the bills, everything is anti-pro-life. Everything.
Anti-human, anti-life, yeah.
And how do you think all this started? What do you think started this movement?
I think it's been a slow play since the 60s or 70s. It's all been a Marxist infiltration to take us down as a society.
Really?
Pure chaos, take us down, anti-human agenda. Like one world order, like George Soros World Economic Forum kind of stuff. That's what I believe it is at the end of the day. But main people like in the United States that are just going along with this stuff, like they don't think that deeply into it, right? They're just convinced by the ideology.
Right.
They're like in a cult essentially stuff.
And did you hear what the vice president said the other day?
It's something about depopulating. Right?
Yeah, she talked about depopulation and depopulating America, and she didn't even correct herself. And Bill Gates said it.
I saw that. He's like, with vaccines, we can bring the population down.
And now, and again, I keep talking because there was something I saw today. They're promoting a new vaccine for something for children, and I don't trust it. I'm so gun shy now, right, because of the whole pandemic. That wasn't 100%. Here's the thing. Again, I get pushback from everybody. It amazes me how many people don't do their own research. They watch the news and they're like, you need to get a vaccine. I'm not doing the vaccine. You're going to kill people. Florida didn't do, they stopped pushing it. Certain countries overseas, and their death rate wasn't high. 0.1% of people died from the COVID. 0.1%. And they forced everybody to control them. They didn't control people. Yeah, you couldn't get on. They were talking about not getting on planes. You couldn't go to your federal job. You couldn't go to your corporate job. You couldn't go. I remember I have a
football game.
A football game. I have a friend that plays the World Series of Poker. They said you can't play unless you have the COVID shot. So they did force people.
100%.
And they were trying to keep people locked down, right? And I remember having this conversation with my son. And he turned 18 years old. He's like, Dad, I said, look, you're an adult. I can't tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I have more wisdom than most people on these podcasts because I'm older. Wisdom comes from experience, years of experience. Doesn't mean I'm smarter, but I have more wisdom. I've seen more. So a 20 or 30, 40-year-old's not going to tell me more about life than I'm going to tell them. And I've seen when somebody's trying to sell you something so hard and push something down your throat, there's an ulterior motive, something from them to gain. And I didn't buy the farm. This isn't my first rodeo. Well, what about the polio shot? What about tuberculosis? It's like, okay, stop. You know, it's like, what if the moon blows up, right? The point is this vaccine is the first time in my whole life, being around more than double the amount of centuries or decades than they have, that I've seen a government try to force something down your throat so hard. Influenza, I saw people that died from influenza. I saw people get sick from influenza. They didn't have masks. They didn't have mandatory shots. So when this came out, I told my son, I said, look, 9 months they were making you take this shot that they just came up with, the vaccine. I'm not buying it. It attaches to your DNA. I'm not buying it. I'm not doing that. It hasn't been 100% successfully tested. 100%. And sure enough, all these people went out and got the shot, and then the hospitals got paid more money to put down. If they weren't certain of the death and they added COVID, they got more funding.
Yep.
Right? Now, could you die of COVID? Yes. People died of it. But it also didn't prevent them from passing it to other individuals. Right?
It didn't even protect them from getting it or anything.
No, it didn't protect them from getting it. I had it twice. The first time, I just lost my taste for the week. The second time, now I'm a healthy guy. Second time was kind of rough. I didn't go to the hospital. Now, I'm not saying that it wasn't deadly, but I'm also saying that I've had the flu before that was 10 times worse than this. And I'm not justifying it and saying it wasn't dangerous, but if you're going to tell me the government's going to try to tell me in 9 months they came up with a vaccine that takes 2 years, traditionally the FDA says, okay, it's fully tested. We got the results. Go ahead. And even then, you're still not certain. In 9 months, and then you're going to make me take 2 or 3 shots with boosters. Now all these athletes are dying, dropping dead. This bodybuilder, fitness guy on internet, on YouTube, he had 8 million followers. He he just passed away.
I saw that.
And he had 4 COVID shots because he had to travel to keep his brand. And I'm going, okay, athletes dropping on the football field, not saying what happened, right?
Yeah.
I think it was the New York Giants, I think it was. Can't remember.
Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills, right. He dropped. And then nobody really talked about it after that.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you that had something to do with it. So, but I had to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, it's interesting. Let me tell you something really quick about court. So, first of all, I don't have it, but they actually forced me in family court during the trial I told you about to answer if I was vaccinated for COVID or not, which was completely irrelevant. My attorney made legal objections.
Because they're going to try to make a decision.
And I have HIPAA law as well, and they, for some reason, forced me to answer it. Which, yeah, it's like, what are you just admitting that you're trying to sway bias? It was very odd.
Did the mom have a COVID shot?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
See, and then they're going to use that against you in the court of law.
Well, so it's interesting. So I said at the end, so they ruled that custody stays the same, right? They also ruled 2 other or 3 things. Like, they won't rule on gender. They ruled also my son has to continue to see the same doctor, who's a doctor that even testified in court, saying that it's okay to treat kids as non-binary, which is insane. And as well, they court on their own ordered a new court date about, since me and the mom don't agree on vaccines. So essentially, they're making a new court date to try to force vaccinate my son.
So they're going to try to get you on child abuse, or the parent isn't capable of making justifiable medical decisions for their child, and they feel that the child could be in danger and in harm's way.
Kids aren't in danger of COVID, right? That's the stats I've seen.
Right, but you're going to have to get some good attorneys. Now, do you have a GoFundMe?
It's a Give, Send, Go. It's Give, Send, Go, Saving Sawyer.
Okay.
And I've been very fortunate. I'm so thankful and blessed that so many people have helped me out so far.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll try to put that link in the description box so you guys can fund his mission to help his son and other children. I think it's so critically and vitally important for this young man. Man, it's just crazy. I wasn't in this situation, and I'm blessed that I went through a divorce, but it was a lot of money, but it wasn't as bad as a lot of people have it. So when I see when the children get put in the middle and torn apart, that's hard. My thing was, okay, me and the mom just were just 2 different lives, living our own lives. And at a point we're like, this isn't working. But I didn't want the children to have a messy situation, right? And so when I see stuff like your situation happening and other individuals, even women, and this isn't about women and men or men getting screwed, but even though men get screwed most of the time, but even women that can't see their children, and maybe they haven't done anything wrong. Like yourself, you haven't done anything wrong. You're fighting for your son. So many men out there that fight for their children that can't see them. And then there's men that don't, but like yourself, that are getting the shaft. And it's fortunate you got 50-50 custody. Do you believe that you're fighting for full custody, but are you okay with it being 50-50 until you can get full custody? It's not going to go backwards the other way, is it?
Well, I would certainly hope not. There's no reason to believe that it would. I mean, judges can pretty much do whatever they want.
Can you order?
But I don't believe so. No, there's no reason that would happen.
I
would like at least a majority, like decision-making power. I think would be extremely helpful.
I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you don't feel comfortable answering them, because I don't want you to perjure yourself,
sure.
Just say no comment. Right? Do you feel that at any given point that she's taking drugs at all?
I don't know what she does in her personal time, but I know this. She takes a lot of serious prescription medications. That's something that came out in court. And she admitted, I believe in court, but definitely in the CPS report, into using alcohol and marijuana, which you could argue that those things are okay. But when you're mixing them with serious prescription drugs, I'm not so sure.
And I know that firsthand from people that are close to me that I kept at arm's length because of that are on prescription drugs, that are constantly smoking marijuana, constantly drinking alcohol, and these are loved ones, blood family, that I have kept at arm's length because of that. And it was hard, but when I called them out on it, they brought other people from other sides of the family in the conversation, and that's where I had to make a decision. And I blocked them on social media. They still have my phone number, but they're really close to me, and I'm like, I can't do this. You have got to admit you have a problem and get help. You're justifying everything because of a disease or an infliction or something that's wrong by taking the prescription medication, okay, and then drinking every day, and then smoking marijuana every day, and having personality outbreaks and disorders and challenges and arguments and outbursts and problems and you're blaming all that because of an illness that you have. And those are choices you're making after the effect. And a lot of times, I believe doctors give too many prescriptions to individuals. You need this pill for this problem, and this pill to counteract this pill, and this pill to counteract both those pills, and to help this other part of the problem you have. And and then next thing you know, you got 7 prescriptions.
All these pills just mask the problem. They don't actually find the deep cause, root problem. These people
they enable you to keep going and pay the pharmaceutical.
Have you tried exercising? Have you tried drinking more water, eating healthier? Like, at least try those things before you take these serious drugs that can affect your life.
But then you got to look at the government too. The government is funding these programs, right? And in San Francisco, where you're at, they pay you to be homeless. If you're on the street, they give you $640 a month. Now, that's not a lot of money, people, but when you're homeless, think about this. When you're homeless and you got the food bank, you got clothes, you got a roof over your head they're providing, or a tent on the street. They're giving you the drugs that you need, the needles, free needle exchange, right? And they're giving you $640 a month, and they're giving you a government cell phone. You have no bills. $640 a month is like us, an average. Okay, I'll give you an example. If you live in a B market city, San Francisco's A market, and that means A market is based on the GDP of the city or the cost of living, right? Okay, San Francisco's an A market, Seattle's an A market, LA's an A market, New York's an A market, Chicago's an A market, Miami. I'm talking a B market, maybe a different. California's a bad example, but maybe Las Vegas is a B market. Okay, Reno's an A market. Cost goes down. Tucson's an A market. But if you live in a B market, right, and I say your income's 50 grand, I give you $100,000 a year. You're not broke. Now imagine reversing that. Let's reverse engineer that. That's like being on the street with free food, free cell phone, shelter of your option, mobile shelter, mobile home, access to as much drugs as you want, and I'm going to give you $640 a month. Why would you ever stop doing that if you're not motivated?
So I think what's happening is, first of all, the homeless problem is really serious there, and in California generally, I think we do need to do something about it and fix it and help people. I think that it came from a place of good intention, Davrick. And, I think that a lot of these people that vote for these things and put these into place do want to help homeless people. But it's kind of like when you have a kid, but basically what is ending up happening is they're just giving them too much. They're just enabling the behavior so much that's only increasing it. Right.
So why don't can I ask you how old you are?
I'm 31 years old.
Okay, you're very well astute and you're very knowledgeable. Do you think that there's a place in politics for you?
I do believe it's a possibility, and I would do whatever it takes if my country called upon me, for sure.
Do you think that maybe running for a mayor and governor, and then maybe a mayor of a city, or getting involved in politics some way? Because you definitely have a good, your head's on straight. You know what you want. You're fighting for a cause, and I think that there's a place for you. Maybe you have a calling. Right?
Right now, I feel a calling to protect kids.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Have you ever tried to reach out to the Daily Wire?
So the Daily Wire is who broke my story. So they've helped me out big time. And Matt Walsh, they made a written report about me, and Matt Walsh tweeted it. And that's kind of what kicked off all this momentum of my story.
Right. Okay. So that's where I saw it then, probably Matt Walsh. What about Ben Shapiro? Has he said anything?
I don't believe so.
I mean, this is things that need to go mainstream. Well, not legacy media. Well, legacy media is newspapers and stuff like that, but I'm talking about television news. So even cable news. I'm talking about the new media where, the internet, social media, to get it out there on platforms like Twitter. Twitter's not going to, Rumble, right?
Yep.
I'm putting my videos on Rumble now because at any given moment, Instagram can have a bad hair day and shut me down with no warning. They did that to Sneeko, right? Steve will do it. Andrew Tate, gone, all off of YouTube, right? And as much as I'm still on there and I haven't gotten any warnings, they still suppress my content and won't let it go out. The only way I get subscribers on YouTube is by being on other people's podcasts. So if I look at my numbers, in 2 months I gained 20,000 subscribers, and then they're like, "Who's this dude?" No, stop. They put the brakes on, versus a Mr. Beast, which is great. Nothing bad to say about the guy. He's got 20 million. He's been doing it a long time, but they're not going to suppress his content. Or if I start talking about video games for kids playing video games, and I'm streaming, they're going to let it go. But as soon as I talk about something that goes against the belief of Google, which is the wokies, right? Or Instagram with Mark Zuckerberg, who donated $400 million to the Democratic campaigns.
And the Zucker boxes for mail-in ballots.
Yeah, the Zucker boxes. They're not going to they don't like my content. So what happens is, just like my Instagram blew up from 15,000 to 80K followers on IG in a matter of a month and a half, 2 months, it stopped. Nothing's changed.
Right. A friend of mine just got kicked off of Instagram yesterday, I believe, one of the Freedom Angels. And they actually also recently kicked off Matt Walsh off YouTube. They suspended Candace and Jordan Peterson, Michael Knowles.
Jordan Peterson is suspended on YouTube?
I believe he's back now, but he was, yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with people? You got a doctor, a clinical psychologist.
They only want people to hear one side because they know they don't have the better argument, so they have to silence the opposing.
Right. Yeah. Facts over reality. I mean, facts over emotions, right?
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Right. Facts don't care about your feelings, but it's amazing. I mean, again, I'm too small for them to care. Like I tell people, you're in the basement. You get to 100,000, you're a legit YouTuber. I'm not legit. I have 32,000 subscribers. And it goes up, right? And it's only increasing the last 2 months. It's only increased by 200. It's squeaking up because they don't push it out. They shadow ban it, And if they let free content go, I mean, it's weird. It's like, even if you don't agree, like I said, it's funny that somebody like Elon, won't even say he's a conservative, but he's a capitalist, right? I believe. I'm speaking for him. He's got a company that's in capital business, right? Where he will let anybody basically be on there. They can be socialist left, unless you're not, unless you're like Nazi or Jew, anti-Jew, or you're saying something really like. But if they're just totally against the right, totally leftist can be, up against the wall, he won't block them on Twitter.
Not a chance. He believes in free speech, genuinely.
And it's amazing that those individuals won't be on Twitter because they get butthurt. Facts over feelings. And the facts don't matter. When they get mad, they just get upset. And I'm never using Twitter again. I'm using Threads, right? And it's like, okay, use shoelaces, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? But there's such a divide in this country. And Rumble is supposed to be the new YouTube. However, I think Twitter is going to take off. Twitter is going to now allow you to put full-length podcasts on there.
Like Tucker's doing.
Like Tucker Carlson.
Yep.
It's insane and crazy as it is, but you talk about a division in the country. And Google, it's like Elon's buddy I can't remember which owner it was, but one of the founders of Google, he was good friends with, and they were talking about AI. And they got in this argument, and I can't remember the term he used. But basically, they're not friends anymore because the owner of Google got mad at Elon because Elon is pro-people versus an AI. He said, well, there needs to be some backup systems in place as a default in case AI goes rogue. And the Google founder said, you're such a humanist. He goes, yeah. And so they're not friends. And so this whole concept of AI, there's no backup door. There's no back door. There's no strategy. Just today, I saw the military release a fighter jet that's running on AI. Really? It goes side by side next to you're flying a real jet. The fighter pilot is flying the jet, F-22, F-15, whatever it is. And it's flying the jet, and the AI, it's not a drone, it's a jet. I mean, it's a little quick one, too. It's about a third of the size. Well, no, it's about 75% the size of the big jets. And it's like a little Delta Dart, man. This thing's like, and the guy's hitting the buttons, and it goes off. And it has all the top level pilots, like the Top Gun pilots. It's got all that data that they kept from all the conflicts and war and training is downloaded into this jet. It's a hyper-simulated AI manless jet that flies itself. And if you get in trouble, you hit a button, it goes off on its own. Like if you're in combat and you're like, be my wingman, you press the wingman button and you're fighting, and then, make your own decisions. And then it comes around and hits the MiG, right? I'm thinking, dude, and it's not called Skynet, it's called Skygate or something like that. I'm like, whoa, we're going crazy. But society, I'm telling you, mark my words, if things don't change, and this is why I hate to say it again, Will's going into politics. If we don't go with Trump, in my opinion, just to get back to zero, we're so far negative. We're so far below the zero mark. We're like negative 20. Just to get to zero, if we don't have Trump in, we're not even going to get close to zero. DeSantis is great, but worldly, he's not known, right? He doesn't have the political experience, in my opinion, right? And I know Trump says some things that piss people off. He's a New Yorker, right?
Yeah.
He's going to say those things, but he's also effective. And this is my opinion. Right. And even I've seen some Republicans like, I don't know about Trump. It's like, well, you better know about him because we're so who would have thought in 10, 20 years that we'd be fighting over surgeries for your children?
Exactly. You said that to someone 10 years ago, they'd say you're nuts. That would never happen.
Right. And now that you say you don't agree with it, they think we're nuts. They think you're crazy.
Well,
you should go to jail.
They're gaslighting us because we're not crazy. We're the majority. They just have people convinced to be too scared to speak up because they'll come after your job. They'll come after whatever they can, right?
Do you think if somebody had a podcast right now on YouTube and they just start talking about gender surgeries for children, do you think that podcast would take off?
It's a great question, and I think it's
Do you
possible.
think they'd cancel it?
No, definitely not. In which context? Which way are they talking about it? Positively or negatively?
No, they're talking about that they believe that they should have surgery for children.
I think they wouldn't censor it, and it would do well.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
That is so
but
sad.
Still, majority of people are against this. I know it. By far. They're
100%.
just too scared to speak up. If everyone just had the courage to say what they believe, just like you and I do all the time, you just have to be brave enough to say what you truly believe. And you can't live being afraid to say what you believe anyways. That's no way to live.
Brother,
if we all did that, it'd be done overnight.
I lived my whole life in the technology space afraid. And this year I finally said, you know what? I'm too old to care. My money got affected. I got affected big time. But it's like, if I don't speak the truth, there needs to be some pirates out there, good guy pirates, right? The Robin Hoods.
Han Solo,
right? And like you said earlier, Han Solo. And, in my space, man, I might have lost an opportunity. 2021, I was killing it. Now, but the recession is part of it. But it's so woke in the tech space, and it starts with HR. They're the worst. Human resources is so bad. You can't even have a conversation. You're afraid. I had a call from a client because I had a phone screen. God, what was he? Senior software engineer. He was in San Francisco. And I could tell the guy was gay on the phone. I could tell by his voice. I could tell, right? But so I'm doing the phone screen just like anybody else. I get a call from the director of people, which is the recruiting director. He's like, hey, you got a moment to talk? And it's like, ooh, this doesn't sound good. So what's going on? He says, did you have an interview today? Da, da, da. I said, yeah. He goes, well, he was really upset. I go, why? He goes, because he told you he wanted to be addressed as his pronouns. I go, he never said that. And then I felt bad that I said he. And he's like, well, he said it twice. He said it. I said, well, see, you just did it. You said he. And I said, I don't say to a person on the phone when I'm phone screening for Raw, I don't say, are you a man or a woman? I don't say he or them or good job, dude. Nobody talks like that. He's like, well, he wanted to be addressed as they, them. And I said, look, first of all, I want you to and he sounded upset. And I said, I want you to think about what you're saying. Do you think for one moment I would purposely misaddress an individual that I'm phone screening for my client for a job to piss them off directly? If he said that, I didn't hear it. See, I said he again. If that person said that, I didn't hear it. And if they did say that, I would have addressed them properly to go through the phone screen and submit them. And I calmed him down because I talked logic to him. I got off the phone. Now, between me and you, I would only do it for the client, but I wouldn't address the individual in general. It's like, I'm a they. No, you're not. You're a dude. But I'm not going to have this conversation with you because it doesn't make any sense. But when I'm talking to you as an individual, as a person, I'm talking to you right now, I don't say, hey, hey, chick.
Exactly.
Right? And so this whole mispronunciation, and now I think it's in Canada, if I misaddress an individual, I can go to jail. I think it's Canada.
I believe that's correct. That's what Jordan Peterson was fighting against. And they're trying to do that in a state here. I think it's Minnesota. But
dude, Minnesota just needs, you know what they need to do? They need to put a wall, a 100-foot wall around Minnesota, California, Oregon, Portland. Portland, Oregon's great outside of Portland.
Just one city, yeah.
King County in Washington, because that's the west side. Eastern Washington's not like that.
A lot of Oregon's going to move to Idaho, right? Or they're attempting
Dude,
to.
Idaho's getting bad, though. Even the people in Idaho, they're like, dude, they're leaving because of the same mindset, right? And they put a wall around. It's like there's a movie by Kurt Russell called Escape from L.A. Right? And it's like Escape from New York. And I watch it's because I watch all these movies. I'm a kid that sat in front of the movie. I was a movie kid. I can recite lines from movies, right? That's how I live my life. I'm like the Harvey Specter, right? From Suits, or Mike Ross, where if you ever watch that series on Netflix, Suits, they're lawyers and they're always talking and they always say movie lines to each other. And
me and my friends always did that growing up.
Yeah. But the whole movie, Escape from LA, it's everybody that gets in trouble, they send to LA and there's a wall and they let them run loose. They do their own laws. They have their own government. So it's like the prison system takes over without guards. And they got a huge wall and a fence and the government sits around it.
Well, they tried it in Washington, didn't they?
Yeah, they tried it in Washington State. They did, right? Right? The Summer of Love, right? Yeah. Oh, my God. I was there. Really? I was living there when it happened. And I saw that and I thought, what in God's name are you doing? And the very same people that vote for those individuals wonder why they have problems. And here's the worst part. They do it again and vote again. And then they're upset. And they do it again because their feelings go over facts. Watch this. They don't like what's happening. And then they vote left again. Just like Chicago. The mayor of Chicago, Lightfoot.
Yep.
They ran her out. Voted another dude in. They got pissed off because he started helping illegal aliens and giving them housing and giving them money and not helping the people on the street. And they're mad. It's like, what did you think was going to happen when you voted left again?
Yeah, the guy was like an open communist, the new guy they elected.
Right. Because they believe, because of the media, that Republicans are racist. This is what's happened in the black community.
They have a pretend moral high ground.
And that's because Lyndon B. Johnson twisted everybody's mind up. I went through this whole history thing. I went and said, wait, because I grew up Democrat. I didn't even like politics, but I hated the Republicans, and I didn't even know why.
Just by default.
By default. And then I owned a business, and I saw my taxes. And then once the Republicans came in, I saw my tax benefits. I hired more employees. I said, they're not so bad. And then here's a great thing. See, a lot of these people out here, I want you to listen to this. A lot of these people out here, they grew up. You're young for me. I grew up when Trump was like Elon. Elon Musk, you know that song? Elon Musk, Elon. They had all these rappers rapping about Trump. He was the man. He was like Elon. All the rappers. Soon as he became president and he's a Republican, all of a sudden he's racist. And then people that are ignorant, that don't do their facts and homework, bought into it. And I'm like, dude, the guy, he was part of the Rainbow Coalition with Jesse Jackson. He got an award, a white dude. He was bailing black businesses out. And then he came in and helped black businesses and black communities. this is what happens. Everybody pushes their agenda because they know a majority, black, Asian, white, other, green, yellow, it doesn't matter. Majority of younger generation people don't go off of facts. They go off of emotions and feelings. And if I attack this culture, we're going to get them, or this gender, or the gay rights movement, and we tell them all this stuff, just like Biden, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then he doesn't do it to get your votes. And that's how they do it. They don't go and do their research, man.
Yeah, it's low information voters.
Very. And then, yeah. So anyways, anything else you want to add to the conversation? I know we went down a crazy path. I appreciate being here. Hopefully, your kid's 3.5, 3 years old.
Yeah.
You're fighting for full custody. You got a site to go to where people can donate funds to. You're going around the country. Do you have any other podcasts lined up at all?
I got a few in the works. I was on Newsmax earlier today.
Really?
Yeah.
Where at? From your hotel?
It was just remote.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been on Matt Walsh, Patrick Bet-David.
I've reached out to him. We've had some conversations, but he hasn't had me on yet.
Okay. Patrick. Adam Sosnick. I'm going to be on Adam Sosnick's on Valuetainment August 17th.
Okay.
I probably won't come out till September, but I'm gonna reach out to Adam. See if he can get you on Patrick Bet-David. I'd love to be on Patrick Bet-David, but I don't have enough pull probably. But your voice and your vision and your mission is something that needs to be said. Right?
I appreciate it, man. It does.
And I think Tucker Carlson, man, get you on Tucker.
I would love to. I love Tucker.
Tucker, come on, man. Anyways, man, thanks for coming out. Is there anything that you can say to fathers out there that are fighting for their children? Is there a positive message that you can say to them, that you can inspire them to stay hopeful and keep the faith about getting their kids?
Yeah, any dads or moms, anybody who's fighting for their kid, you got to be brave. You got to do whatever it takes. You have a duty to your child. I promise, no matter how much pain and suffering, no matter what you go through, it is worth it. Your kid is worth it. It's the most meaningful, amazing thing in the world to be a parent. And all you got to do is be brave and fight. And that goes for everyone. Speak up, be brave. We can end this.
Right on, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to this channel when you see this video. Share this video. Like this video. Make sure you check down in the description box for the links to HV Alpha. I'm going to put the link to your page to donate, right? And I'm going to put your Instagram on there as well. I don't think you have a YouTube. Am I right?
I have a YouTube.
Okay, baby. I'll put the link to the YouTube. I'll hyperlink in the video. And we'll stay strong. And remember, the truth will set you free.